Honk, honk, honk. Hey guys, this is the Canadian Goose, and I just wanted to say I've been on the show here with Keith Andrews, and I think he's doing a lot of great work for folks with disabilities. Keep up the great work. Keep bringing out good content. Honk, honk, honk.
Andrew Network. It is episode 771. That's right, 771. I am here with Kyle Shaw. Thank you for joining me. It's a real honor and privilege.
How you doing, brother? Keith, I'm Kyle Shaw, aka the Canadian Goose. Honk, honk, honk. How's it going?
No, absolutely. And I love the whole Canadian theme you have going for you.
Well, I got to represent, bro. I live up here in Edmonton, Alberta, and I fly high in wrestling rings across the province as the Canadian Goose. So, got to represent,
No, absolutely. You mentioned off the air, I am from the U.S., upstate New York. And, the capital of the world is New York City. But for me, there's a lot of beginner schools too. And that's going to be my first question for you is what beginner schools have you gone to? But for me, there's East Coast Pro Wrestling, there's the Monster Factory, Pennsylvania, there's I think like every state for the most part, New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, they all have their own. But what can you tell us about Canada, about, your own? Well, for an example, I'm talking about, you have a whole collection of phenomenal talent from Canada. Trish Stratus,
100%.
Bret the Hitman Hart, Owen. A lot of people will make a face about this, but Chris Benoit as one of the best as a professional wrestler. As long as he's a wrestler, he's good. Human being, I never met him, so I'm not going to say anything. But you have Chris Benoit, you have Chris Jericho, Chris Candido. There's so many of great talents.
Candido Canadian?
I think Chris Candido is.
Oh, I thought I'm pretty sure he's American. I think him and Sonny are from like Minnesota or something. I could be totally wrong on that, but.
Well, I know Sonny's from New Jersey.
Okay. Yeah, see, that makes sense. And I'm pretty sure Candido's from the States, but I could be wrong about that. Anyway, sorry, we don't need to get into a logistical conversation over something like that, But yeah, no, there's tons of great Canadian wrestling talents. There's a lot of really good underrated and guys like that you may never have heard of. People that like people that I wrestle with and other smaller leagues similar to the one I wrestle for in other territories of Canada. See, because Canada is it's like a country, and then just like the United States is a country, and then it's broke up into states. Canada's broken up into provinces and territories, right? So I live in the province of Alberta, which is like the mecca of Canadian wrestling. I mean, you mentioned earlier Bret the Hitman Hart, Owen Hart. There's just an absolute slew of guys that have come out of Canada, out of Calgary. Calgary Stampede Wrestling was like a major big deal here for a very long time, to the point where even today on wrestling shows, we'll have like, oh, we're bringing on the Calgary Stampede legends are coming out to wrestle tonight. And, it's a big deal. So, 100%. There's a lot of great Canadian talents out there, especially like on the independents. Like, I got to mention Michael Richard Blaze, Heavy Metal, Slammer. These are all just Alberta guys. Viking Lord Vince Austin. Then you got like a guy out of Newfoundland like Andrew Hawk. You've got Tyson Dukes, Dylan Davis. Cameron Stevens is fantastic. Like, there's just a ton of guys I could go on and mention if people are unfamiliar with Canadian independent wrestling. But yeah, it's the thing about Canada is it's so widespread that it's a bunch of sort of different communities, and it's not as easy. Like, it's not like, Calgary is like, and Edmonton are sort of close together, right? But if I want to go and work in Vancouver, it's not like driving from New York to Philadelphia. we're talking a 13-hour drive, right? And then the next, major wrestling place, if I'm not going to Vancouver, if I'm going the other way, that would be like Winnipeg. That's another like 13-hour drive. There's some stuff going on in Saskatchewan, but like I say, so it's like that's the difference of like wrestling in the States is just everything is so close together, and there's so many people there that it is what it is. But in Canada, it's much more like isolated.
No, absolutely. I know a lot of wrestling fans will get annoyed at me saying, you crossed the line when you mentioned Chris Benoit. But, as a professional wrestler, you can't deny that he was the best. WCW, he went from ECW to WCW to WWE. But as a wrestler, and you have to keep in mind, there's a difference when you're talking about somebody as a human being and a wrestler. There's always,
I mean, yeah, like nobody's going to sit here and say Chris Benoit was a bad wrestler, a terrible wrestler. Like anyone that's saying that is just factually wrong. He was like fantastic and probably like the absolute best wrestler in the world when he died. Unfortunately, when he died, he was, there was personal things going on, and unfortunately, it was a tragic event, and whoever knows what the full story will be. But yeah, no, like you have to like there's respect. People have respect for Benoit as a wrestler, and can separate that from the human being for the most part, I think. And even if you don't, and if you think okay that ruined his wrestling career, then that's fine. I mean, I don't think he should be in the Hall of Fame or anything. So
it's kind of like saying, Michael Jackson, phenomenal singer, a big pop star, but he had skeletons in his closet. There's not a person alive. Look at Trump. Trump is a perfect example. You have people say, yeah, he did some good things, but again, he had skeletons in his closet. So there's no such thing as a perfect human being. Unless you're a freaking computer, then no one's perfect and everyone has problems. Look at Scott Hall. Scott
Kurt
Hall.
Hennig's pretty good.
No, absolutely. Scott Hall, one of the greatest.
Yeah.
There was a time where people thought he was going to commit suicide, but thanks to DDP yoga, he bounced back. And speaking of DDP yoga, fantastic guy, very respectful. I got the chance to meet him.
Oh,
but
really?
his yoga really helps so much people. Scott Hall is a perfect example. Jake Roberts is another perfect example. Players too. I know has health issues that he's going through, but not to harp on that. But wrestling, and as you know, wrestling, that's not a trampoline that you guys are jumping on. That's pretty much a hard ring and a hard floor. So
absolutely. It's definitely not a trampoline at all. I don't know. All from my experience, pretty much all the rings that I've wrestled in, I always help put them together because that's what you do as a young wrestler. And they're all built differently, but basically it's like a metal frame and then just planks of wood across. And then on top of the planks of woods, you have like a foam pad. The foam pads at the promotion I wrestle for, Real Canadian Wrestling, they've been using the same ones for like 5 years. So the middle is like completely pulverized. So, you're basically like, because there's that foam pad, then there's the mat, like the canvas that holds everything down. So like you get, body slammed on top of that foam pad that's like not even a centimeter thick because it's just been got 5 years worth of 250-pound guys getting slammed on it. It's not pleasant.
No, I agree. Now,
then the crowd goes nuts, and that part rocks.
Well, you brought up the perfect example. Now, how do you feel about the wrestling business as Corona era, you want to say? Because now they're using Thunderdome and there's not really, when wrestlers in the ring, you can
Yeah.
feel the energy and feel the excitement. Now everyone's like, I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
TNA Impact Wrestling has no crowds, so it's kind of hard to watch it because you can hear a pin drop. But you look at some other places where they have people there,
Yeah.
but it makes it interesting. From what you have gone through your life, how would you describe performing in front of an audience to pretty much a warehouse?
Well, performing in front of an audience is, uh, it's a higher pressure situation because you can't just be like, oh, well, we buggered that up, but, it's a warehouse show and it's, we're taping it. Let's just film it again, you know. Uh, so you've got that more live like pressure, but it's also like it helps like the crowd there providing energy and you feed off that and like that like leads you where to go. Like when you're putting together your matches and stuff, sometimes you'll work with guys that are veterans of the game and they don't like to discuss a lot of stuff in the back. You'll walk up and they'll be like, oh, hey, we're the booker says we're wrestling tonight and what do you want to do? And he's like, oh, I'll see you out there, kid. Like that's happened to me a bunch of times. And it's just because they know so well how to lead matches and how to flow the matches by listening to the crowd that these guys are so good, like veteran guys like that. Um, I recently worked with Steve Wild and he did that. And it was pretty awesome. Uh, Steve Wild's done some cool stuff like for WWE house shows way back in the day in Calgary and stuff. Steve Rivers, he's done some cool stuff like that. I wrestled with him as well.
No, absolutely. Now, the next question I want to ask is tell our audience a little bit about your background and how you came to do what you do now.
Well, my background, I just kind of like I say, I've always been a wrestling fan since I was like a teenager, right? Like, 12, 13 years old. I remember the first angle that I ever got like invested in was when Stone Cold Steve Austin was battling against Vince McMahon, who had been revealed as the Undertaker's higher power. And, that just hooked me right in there. So I was a fan for a very, very long time. And then once I started figuring out that wrestling happens live locally. I started going to shows. This was over in Victoria, BC, the complete opposite side of the country from New York. Um, anyway, so I was doing those. I was going to those little live shows and just enjoying them. And then, boys will be boys. So me and a few of my high school buddies were doing some backyard stuff, and we messaged up one of these local promoters one day, and he was thank God he was, we weren't like we want to wrestle, but we were like we would like to film your show and maybe do some commentary or something. He said no, but it was a blessing in disguise because he did say, "Oh, come down, offer, and you can come help out and stuff." And that's where I started helping out and whatnot, just setting up rings, putting up posters around the city, working any kind of thing like doing music. And then eventually that parlayed into them giving me the opportunity to interview a guy or two. Then I moved to Alberta, and yeah, it was like the repeat process. Like I found out a show was going on, so I messaged the promoter, just said, "Hey, I'm willing to come and help out. Would that be cool?" And so I came, I helped out. That was RCW back in like 2014 in February, and I did that first show. I helped on music there. That parlayed into me eventually being asked to do music at more shows, and then I was asked to be the ring announcer. And so I served out a couple of years as the Real Canadian Wrestling ring announcer. A lot of people in the province of Alberta figure that I'm one of the top ring announcers in the whole province. As far as like wrestling goes, it's pretty much me or what about Ivan? And I give all the props to Ivan. But yeah, no, like a lot of people consider me to be a really good, great ring announcer. And I loved ring announcing. It's a lot of fun. Basically, your whole job as a ring announcer is to convey information and get people hyped up to have a good time. It's awesome. But nobody comes to see the ring announcer at a wrestling show. So, you know,
Well, that's not really. Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt. I do apologize. Well, I was going to say that's not really true, but you look at, well, for me anyway, I find myself watching for Howard Finkel and
oh no, hey, yeah, and I'm not trying to say bash on Howard Finkel or any of the WWE legendary ring announcers, Gary Michael Capetta, the Buffers, anyone like that. Like, no, absolutely, those people are fantastic at what they do, but their job is to add to the package of the highlight package of the person, like their entrance, right? Like, if they're going to put any flavor or personality into it, it's just got to be like to highlight that person. It doesn't distract you. You're a fan of Howard Finkel because of what he does. He does it so well, but you're not a fan of Howard Finkel over the wrestler that he's announcing to the ring. You know what I mean? He's not the focus of the show. He's directing your focus to whoever he's introducing. If he's taking the limelight to himself, he's not a good ring announcer.
no, absolutely. Now we're gonna take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, I'm gonna ask you about disabilities in the wrestling world,
Okay, sure.
and then a couple more
Yeah.
hard hitting questions.
I'm Penny Fine.
Hi, it's Mimi Chen.
Hi, my name is Ellen Dorsch.
I'm Shauna Toth.
Hey guys, I'm Anastasia Edwards.
Hi, this is Jackie Nunez.
Hi, I'm Millie Rose.
Hey guys, I'm Alexandria Denise, and you're watching Keith Andrews Show. He's doing a terrific job. Make sure you like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more awesomeness.
Okay, bud.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Keith Andrew Network. In the following, it's brought to you by the Keith Andrew Network. Never give up and prove people wrong. Prove them. Labels do not dictate who you are and who you're going to be. It's a prove them
Nice.
to something. As a perfect segue, what can you tell us about the belt and how long have you been champion?
Oh, the belt. Well, I'll tell you about the belt, but let me finish my story about like I say, becoming a wrestler. Because like I say, I was going to all these shows. I was ring announcing. It was a ton of fun, but nobody comes to the show to see the ring announcer. So I ended up. I moved from Red Deer to Edmonton, and one of the wrestlers here, a top-notch guy by the name of the Saltwater Savage, Andrew Hawk. He's one of the like top wrestlers in Canada for sure. He had a ring set up in his backyard, and he started some training with me. So I did some very basic training. I started having matches on out of town, small little shows where I would, just go out there and sort of get a taste of it, get beat up and that sort of thing. And then eventually I joined up with Force Pro Wrestling training ground, and I started training under Michael Richard Blaze and whatnot. And then I started wrestling on the main city shows. So from that point on, I was pretty much no longer an announcer, and I was just wrestling from then on. As the Canadian Goose, I get people honking like this, honk, honk, honk. I wear feathers to the ring. Got a Canadian singlet. It's all really great stuff. The belt, I won that for Best Entertainment Wrestling. It's a brand new federation. They've only had one show so far. It was in Red Deer. There is going to be more shows coming just as soon as the COVID restrictions let up and we're actually like able to have shows again. But that's sort of a to be determined thing. So I really don't have a lot of information. But yeah, no, I'm one half of the BEW National Tag Team Champions, and we'll see how that goes.
No, absolutely. Now, the last two questions I want to ask you is, now that everyone knows that Impact Wrestling is based in Canada for the time being, have you ever wanted to be a part of them?
Have I ever wanted to? Well, I'd love to. It'd be awesome. You said something like I heard something about disabilities or whatnot.
Yeah, we're going to get to that after that.
Oh, okay. Well, that kind of plays into to my answer here, because like I personally I have Asperger's syndrome, and some depression and like other like mental health stuff going on. sometimes. So, you know, I'm a little older as well. I'm not trying to make excuses though. You know, I would absolutely love to go to Impact Wrestling, but like I feel like sometimes there's things like that that hold me back. But then again, it's like I thought those things would hold me back from ever making it on the very local like level that I have, and I've had more success than I can imagine. So yeah, I'd absolutely love to go there. That'd be cool.
No, I agree. And I'll give you a perfect example. When I first came up with my talk show, a lot of people said, you know, it was never going to amount to anything, that, you know, you were pissing in the wind. But I've been doing this for 7.5 years. I met a lot of great people. I met a lot of shitty people. And thanks to you, we are up to 771. And I have interviewed actors, actresses, models, CEOs, professional wrestlers, people with learning disabilities, people without disabilities. I'm turning myself into an example. And as I said from the beginning, the whole point of my talk show is to show people that even with having a learning disability, I can still amount to something. And at the same time, I'm showing you that labels do not dictate who you are and who you're going to be. You can still amount to something. So hashtag break the labels. So if I can do this and become an inspiration, and you know, it's funny enough, there's also another wrestler called Mia Yin. She was Jade from Dollhouse.
She's reckoning now.
Well, I'm not crazy about that gimmick, but but she did a celeb VM message for me, and she said that she had a disability, and I didn't think about it. I was like, oh, that's really cool. You know, if you can do it, that's an example right there.
Yeah, 100%. It's all about mindset, right? Like that's the thing, as why, like, you know, I wish that I had the wherewithal to change my mindset a lot earlier, so I could have started when I was younger. You know, because like I'm going to be 37 next month, so I feel like I wish I had just that had clicked for me back then, because like at a certain point, probably when I was like 34, that's when it kind of clicked, and I was able to like get a hold of like, you know, some information about dieting and exercising. And, you know, I lost a lot of weight and came to realize that like all these things I've told myself that I can't do, you know, absolutely. Like you can, you just have to learn and take it step by step and believe in yourself. Like even at wrestling and in training and stuff, like there's wrestling moves and stuff where I never once imagined I'd be able to like do that. And then like the boss, the coach is like, okay, you're going to do this. I'm like, oh, there's no way I can do that. You know, run, the guy grabs you under the armpit, you jump up on the middle rope, jump off and give him an arm drag. I was like, what? And then sure enough, you know, he explained it and broke it all down for me. And now I busted out matches and people go wild and it's awesome. And, you know, it's just stuff like that. Like, you know, you just like, Michael Richard Blaze taught me how to do a moonsault, and, you know, like just this sort of stuff, like I never thought I'd be able to do. And here I am. And so like, even like anytime I find myself going, oh, I can't do that, I'm like, oh, well, you know, I bet you like some other people think it would be able to do. I don't know. I'm not trying to put myself over or anything. I'm just, you know, it's all about mindset. Yeah. If you're going to sit there and let your disabilities hold you back, then that's what's going to happen. So like within wrestling, I you know, I just try to go out there and do the best I can, put on a performance. And, you know, it's definitely a part of who I am, and my struggle against this stuff is a part of my character, and as a part of the story that I end up telling. Like there's a lot of matches where the Canadian Goose is getting beat up pretty bad, so that, you know, when eventually I do crack that headbutt or something, it's pretty exciting, right? So like it's fighting an uphill battle, and that's what's going on in the world today, is people are fighting an uphill battle and they can relate. And I mean, maybe over in New York, there's not a lot of people that can relate to the old Canadian goose, what with them not being from Canada. But I'll tell you, up here in Canada, like a lot of fans, they've gotten behind it, and it's pretty awesome. And why not? Like Canadian geese, like vicious creatures, vicious.
No, I agree. Luckily I never saw any, but I take your word for it. But wrapping up our show. But sometimes,
Absolutely.
it's kind of like what you're saying, when someone beats you down, or in your case, because you're a Canadian goose, when it feels like you're being plucked, it's about showing them what you can. Just do a little joke there, as you can just still amount to anything. Never let anyone handcuff you and say, this is what's expected of you. You can't break the glass ceiling. It's about proving people, look at what you can amount to.
Yeah, and I mean, there has definitely been some times where I've had people say I shouldn't do this, I can't do this, like everything that people said to you about pissing. When people said that to me, but I've also had a number of people that said, like, they've recognized the hard work that I've done, because like I train, like when the training center is open, train a lot. Like, there was a time period earlier this year for like I was training pretty much every single day, and the days I wasn't training, I was traveling and wrestling. So like, a lot of people recognized that I'm putting in that hard work. So at a certain point, like, it's nice, because like, don't get me wrong, like those people telling me I can't do this, I need them there for the motivation to prove them wrong. But all the people that are telling me I can do this and I've worked hard, the motivation to prove those people right is like, that's equally as powerful, if not more powerful. And I don't get me wrong, I have eons and galaxies to go before I could ever be considered like really great or anything like that. But I absolutely love wrestling, and I'm going to stick with it as long as I can. So.
No, absolutely. Now, wrapping up our show, it was a real honor and privilege having you as a guest, and I'm looking forward to part 2 down the road.